My dear brothers and sisters, life has a way of testing us. There are moments when you try one door after another, and each one closes firmly in front of you. You plan, you work hard, you make dua, yet nothing seems to move. At that moment, the heart feels heavy, the mind becomes tired, and the soul begins to question, why me? But this is where our faith teaches us something powerful. When all doors close, it does not mean Allah has abandoned you. It means Allah is protecting you from what you cannot yet see. Allah reminds us that He is Al-Hakim, the most wise. Wisdom means that even when you do not understand the decision, it is still the best decision. A child may cry when a sharp object is taken away, unaware that it was taken out of love and protection. Similarly, many doors close because what lies behind them would have harmed your faith, your character, or your future. Your patience, dear brothers and sisters, is not passive. Patience is strength. It is choosing to trust Allah while continuing to do what is right. Every tear you hold back, every dua you whisper, every moment you resist despair, Allah records it. Not a single struggle goes unnoticed. Sometimes Allah delays an opening because He is preparing you, not the door. He strengthens your iman, purifies your intentions, and builds resilience within you. If the door had opened earlier, you might not have been ready to walk through it. Remember this, when people close their doors on you, Allah opens His. And when Allah opens a door, no force on earth can close it. Never underestimate the power of hope. Hope is an act of worship. To believe that tomorrow can be better is to believe in Allah's mercy. Despair is not from faith. A believer falls, but never loses trust. Okay. So if today you feel stuck, if everything seems blocked, pause and reflect. Perhaps Allah is guiding you towards something greater, something purer, something that aligns better with your akhirah and your dunya. Trust His plan. Walk forward with faith. Keep making dua. Keep doing good. Because when Allah opens that one door, you will look back and realize every closed door was necessary. May Allah grant us patience, clarity, and unshakable trust in His divine plan. Ameen. Understanding divine wisdom means recognizing that not every closed door in life is a loss, and not every opportunity that disappears was meant to stay. Allah's wisdom operates beyond human perception. While we see events only in the present moment, Allah sees the entire journey of our lives from beginning to end. When a door closes, it is often because Allah, in His complete knowledge, knows what lies behind it and understands the consequences that we are unable to foresee. What feels like disappointment may actually be protection, and what feels like delay may be divine timing working precisely as intended. Human understanding is limited by emotion, desire, and short-term thinking. We naturally want outcomes that provide immediate comfort or success, yet Allah's wisdom considers the long-term impact on our faith, character, and ultimate development. Many times a door closes because stepping through it would have weakened our connection with Allah, distracted us from our purpose, or placed us in an environment that would slowly erode our values. Allah does not deprive without reason. He redirects with mercy. The believer learns to interpret closed doors not as punishment, but as guidance shaped by perfect knowledge. Divine wisdom also teaches that hardship and ease are both forms of testing. When something is taken away, it is not always because it was bad in itself, but because it was not good for us at that time. Allah may close a door temporarily, not permanently, until we grow into the person capable of handling what lies beyond it. Growth in patience, humility, and reliance upon Allah often happens in moments of uncertainty. Without closed doors, many hearts would never learn to turn fully toward their Creator. Yet another aspect of divine wisdom is that Allah's plan is interconnected. One closed door may lead to a completely different path that we never would have chosen on our own, yet that path becomes the source of our greatest blessings. Often, people later realize that the opportunity they were desperate for would have prevented them from meeting certain people learning crucial lessons, or discovering talents they never knew they had. Allah's wisdom aligns events in ways that serve a purpose far greater than personal preference, Understanding divine wisdom also requires surrendering control. Humans like certainty, timelines, and guarantees, but Allah asks for trust. When doors close, the believer is taught to say, Allah knows, and I do not know. This acknowledgement is not weakness, it is spiritual maturity. It reflects awareness that true knowledge belongs only to Allah, and that peace comes not from controlling outcomes, but from trusting the one who controls them. Divine wisdom is also evident in how Allah protects us from ourselves. There are doors we knock on repeatedly, unaware that what we desire could damage our spiritual well-being. Allah may close those doors firmly, even painfully, because love sometimes requires firmness. Just as a caring parent prevents a child from harm even when the child insists, Allah prevents us from paths that would lead to regret, even if we cannot understand it at the moment. Another important element of divine wisdom is timing. A door closed today may open years later when circumstances, intentions, and priorities have changed. What once felt like loss may later be recognized as preparation. Allah's wisdom ensures that blessings arrive at the moment they will be most beneficial, not merely when they are most desired. Delay does not mean denial, it often means refinement. Recognizing divine wisdom also reshapes the believer's response to disappointment. Instead of bitterness, the heart learns acceptance. Instead of anger, it develops gratitude. Gratitude not only for what is given, but for what is withheld. This mindset transforms hardship into a source of spiritual elevation. Closed doors no longer crush the believer. They strengthen reliance on Allah and deepen understanding of His mercy. Ultimately, understanding divine wisdom is about aligning the heart with faith rather than circumstances. When a believer truly accepts that Allah's decisions are rooted in wisdom and compassion, fear decreases and contentment increases. Closed doors stop feeling like endings and start being seen as signs. Signs that Allah is actively involved, guiding, protecting, and shaping a future that the believer may not yet understand, but can fully trust. Your patience as an act of worship is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful concepts in faith. Many people view patience as simply waiting in silence or suppressing emotion, but in reality, patience is an active spiritual state. It is the conscious decision to remain obedient to Allah, to avoid complaint against His decree, and to continue doing good even when the heart feels heavy. When a believer practices patience during hardship, that patience itself becomes a form of ibadah, carrying immense spiritual weight. Your patience is worship because it requires intention. A person may endure difficulty out of helplessness, but a believer endures it while believing that Allah is watching, listening, and rewarding. This inner awareness transforms suffering. Each moment of restraint, holding back anger, resisting despair, controlling the tongue from complaint is recorded as obedience. In this way, patience is not passive endurance. It is a deliberate act of submission to Allah's will. Now, hardship exposes the sincerity of faith. During ease, worship is comfortable, but during difficulty, worship demands effort. Patience during trials proves that faith is not conditional upon comfort. When doors close and answers seem delayed, continuing to pray, to trust, and to uphold good character becomes an act of devotion greater than many visible forms of worship. The believer learns that remaining steadfast in hardship may carry more reward than voluntary acts performed during ease. Patience also involves emotional discipline. Islam does not deny human pain, sadness, or grief. Feeling hurt is not a lack of patience. Reacting in ways that displease Allah is. True patience is maintaining dignity in pain, turning to Allah rather than away from Him. Tears can fall, hearts can ache, but the tongue remains respectful and the heart remains connected. This balance reflects deep spiritual strength and understanding. Another dimension of patience as worship is consistency. Trials often tempt people to abandon good habits, delay prayers, or withdraw from acts of kindness. Patience means continuing righteousness even when motivation is low. When a believer chooses to pray despite exhaustion, to be honest despite fear, or to be kind despite disappointment, that patience becomes worship in action. Allah values perseverance that remains firm under pressure. Patience also purifies intentions. When success is removed and recognition, the believer is forced to reassess why they worship and whom they rely upon. In times of difficulty, actions are done purely for Allah, not for reward or praise. This purification elevates the quality of worship. A single patient moment endured sincerely may outweigh years of comfortable obedience. Patience teaches restraint in speech and behavior. Complaining excessively, blaming others, or questioning Allah's wisdom can damage faith. Exercising patience means choosing words carefully, seeking help through dua instead of frustration, and responding with calm rather than impulsive reactions. This self-control strengthens character and reflects spiritual maturity. Patience also strengthens reliance upon Allah. When all means seem exhausted, patience pushes the believer to depend fully on divine help. This reliance deepens the relationship with Allah, turning hardship into an opportunity for closeness. The believer learns that Allah is not only present during ease, but especially near during struggle. Another important aspect is that patience has levels. There is patience in avoiding sin, patience in performing obligations, and patience in enduring hardship. Enduring hardship is often the most challenging, yet it carries immense reward. Allah raises the ranks of those who remain patient, not because they suffered, but because they chose faith over frustration. In fact, patience as worship reshapes how a believer views time. Immediate results are no longer the goal. Earning Allah's pleasure becomes the priority. Waiting becomes meaningful rather than wasted. Each delayed outcome becomes a chance to collect reward, to grow spiritually, and to strengthen trust. Ultimately, patience as an act of worship transforms trials into spiritual opportunities. The believer is no longer defined by what is lost or delayed, but by how they respond. Through patience, hardship becomes a means of elevation, character refinement, and deeper submission to Allah's will. Hope never ending with Allah is a fundamental principle of faith that shapes how a believer perceives hardship, failure, and uncertainty. In Islam, hope is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is a deep-rooted belief in Allah's mercy, power, and generosity. No matter how dark circumstances become, a believer understands that Allah's ability to change situations is limitless. When all visible means disappear, hope does not diminish, it strengthens because reliance shifts from creation to the Creator. Hope is sustained by understanding Allah's attributes. Allah is the most merciful, the most kind, and the most capable. These qualities are not restricted by time, situation, or human logic. When a door closes, hope reminds the believer that Allah can open another door in ways unimaginable. What seems impossible to people is effortless for Allah. This awareness prevents despair and keeps the heart alive even in prolonged difficulty. Despair is not merely emotional pain. It is a spiritual danger. Losing hope implies doubting Allah's mercy or believing that one's situation is beyond divine help. Faith teaches that no sin is too great to be forgiven, and no problem too large to be solved by Allah. Maintaining hope is therefore an act of faith and obedience. It reflects confidence in Allah's promise that relief follows hardship, even if the timing remains unknown. Hope also protects the believer from becoming trapped in the past. Many people remain emotionally imprisoned by lost opportunities, mistakes, or closed doors. Hope shifts focus forward. It teaches that Allah's plan is ongoing and that the future holds potential beyond current pain. A believer with hope does not allow past disappointments to define destiny. Instead, they see every day as a new opportunity for Allah's mercy to manifest. Hope encourages persistence in dua. When hope is alive, supplication continues even when answers seem delayed. The believer understands that every dua is heard and valued, even if the response comes in a different form. Hope sustains the connection with Allah, preventing the heart from withdrawing in frustration. Rather than questioning why prayers seem unanswered, the hopeful believer trusts that Allah is responding in the best way. Hope also plays a crucial role in emotional resilience. It provides strength during long periods of uncertainty. Without hope, patience becomes unbearable. With hope, patience becomes meaningful. Hope gives suffering a direction and purpose. It reassures the believer that hardship is temporary and that Allah's mercy is constant, even when relief is not immediate. Another important aspect of hope is that it does not contradict effort. Trusting Allah does not mean abandoning action. Hope motivates positive steps, ethical behavior, and continued striving. A hopeful believer works hard while trusting outcomes to Allah. They do not surrender to hopelessness or laziness because hope inspires movement rather than stagnation. But hope also shapes the believer's character. It nurtures gratitude even during difficulty. A hopeful heart recognizes small blessings that remain instead of fixating on what is lost. This gratitude reinforces faith and prevents the believer learns to appreciate what Allah has preserved while waiting for what He will provide. Hope has the power to heal inner wounds. Many trials leave emotional scars that cannot be seen by others. Hope reassures the believer that healing is possible, that pain is not permanent, and that Allah can replace loss with something better. This belief prevents the heart from hardening and keeps it open to goodness. Another dimension of hope is recognizing that Allah's help can come suddenly. A situation may remain unchanged for years, then transform in a moment. Hope prepares the believer to remain steadfast until that moment arrives. It teaches that timing is part of mercy, and that delay may be protecting the believer from harm or preparing them for greater ease. Hope never ends with Allah because His mercy has no limits. As long as a believer is alive, doors can open, hearts can heal, and situations can change. Holding on to hope is not denial of reality. It is trust in a reality governed by divine wisdom. Through hope, the believer continues to walk forward, confident that Allah's compassion is always closer than despair. Personal growth through trials is a central reality of the believer's journey. Difficulties are not random interruptions to life. They are carefully placed moments of development. When doors close and plans collapse, the believer is forced to slow down, reflect, and reassess. This pause often becomes the beginning of inner growth. Comfort rarely pushes people to change, but hardship demands transformation, shaping the heart and mind in ways ease never could. Trials reveal true character. When everything is going well, patience, humility, and sincerity are easy to claim. When hardship arrives, these qualities are tested. How a person reacts to disappointment, rejection, or loss uncovers strengths and weaknesses within the soul. Through trials, believers become aware of their emotional limits, spiritual gaps, and moral vulnerabilities. This awareness is the first step toward meaningful personal growth. Clueless doors often teach reliance. Many people depend heavily on plans, people, or material stability. When these supports are removed, the believer learns to rely upon Allah more deeply. This shift strengthens faith and builds inner security that is not dependent on external circumstances. Growth occurs when trust in Allah replaces fear of uncertainty. The heart learns that stability does not come from control, but from connection with the Creator.